Oh, there it goes.
Oops. Okay. My intention is to do a short PowerPoint, not a long one, to show you a couple of videos of participants who are speaking about their experience, and then to leave a lot of room for question and answer. And I want to again thank Peter and Lenore for helping me, because this is hard for me,
Ah,
all this stuff. So, so we're going to start with a PowerPoint. No, before we start with the PowerPoint, I'd love to hear if anybody wants to share a little bit about what happened for you in the room. Anything you heard, anything you shared, what came up for you? Did anything happen for anybody?
Well, I can go.
Okay.
It reminded me of a similar situation I had, although the situation happened like before the workshop that I was going to give, and created a lot of drama with the organization, and so I still ended up walking in there feeling pretty raw and just like in my stuff in a way. Um,
Were
and
you leading?
yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how'd you handle that?
Because like someone had brought up a political thing based on a word in the title of the workshop.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I did I had to change the workshop a bit the night before and just tighten it up, which is what we had all decided we would do.
But what happened in your body, and what happened,
Yeah.
like, what was it like to be faced with that in?
Yeah, I was more fragile than I wanted to be, but
Mhm.
I just took time to be with it and just take a lot of space and feel what I was feeling. And, if the person had been in front of me, I would have really worked to be curious about why they were bringing what they were bringing, but I didn't have that opportunity. So,
Great,
but I tried to put that curiosity into the whole group. And
great.
yeah, and then I processed it a bunch after with a in a group that I have to process it in an individual. But yeah, it made me so much more fragile, and
And by fragile, you mean what?
uh, I felt, I felt, I just felt much more vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
great. Thank
But
you.
I gave it time, and I think for me the whole practice is being comfortable with my discomfort.
Yeah, that's
And,
great.
and so yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to share something before we go on? It's okay. Maybe we can just do the PowerPoint. So, yeah, next one. So for me, I just want to say that radical aliveness is about healing and personal growth, but also is about awareness and action. And action is really important to me because it really brings the world in when what's happening in the room, what's happening in the program, what's happening in the work changes people and then changes how they are in the world. Okay, that's the point. And for the people who were here yesterday, I'm just going to say that complexity for me, which means that we've all been socialized and we all have different lenses and we've come from different cultures and different backgrounds, different class, different religions, different cultures, different languages. I thought when I began this work that if you just helped people feel everything, that they would be able to navigate the world, with maturity, with all of this. And what happened for me was I realized that really wasn't true. That for one thing, people have different worldviews. You also have to work with people's beliefs and you have to give people information. And so there's all sorts of things that I needed to expand into and learn more about. And I always want to say that I got so much collaboration and help and information from Nikki Angel. But there was so much that I needed to change and know about myself to be able to hold in this way and to be able to help others. That's good. So these are the principles. And when I moved from doing work as an expert, which for me means learning a set of tools and skills and a theory that you master and then apply the same to everyone, as more and more people were coming into radical aliveness, and I was specifically saying, I'm welcoming the world. What I saw was how much I was missing and how much the theories that I was working from were missing. Not that theories aren't great and we can use them, but that you can't have a theory that's going to be able to be applied to everyone, because theories have worldviews and they're missing a lot of information. So the principles came to me, and for me, this is the foundation of the work I do. Knowing I don't know. So I know when I enter a room that there's so much that people know about themselves, about their lives, that I couldn't possibly know, and that I'm open to receiving that information. Being willing to be changed by our encounters. This is so important to me, that we all are socialized in just a narrow way. And that's true for everyone in the world. And when we meet people and get information that we have not had before, it's important that we're willing to have our minds and hearts changed. Welcoming everything. So for me, this means feeling everything that comes up in us with the intention to know ourselves deeply. We can't change the outside. So the goal is, how do I navigate what's happening outside of me in ways that give me choice? Cultivating a non-shaming heart and attitude. For me, this means that people need to feel their own deep feelings, and also they need information. The information is what helps with the attitude. The heart is not enough. We also need information. So, but when we feel deeply, we are able to extend a bridge of empathy to others who may be also feeling something that's not exactly like what we're feeling, but there's a way we can relate to it. Honoring multiple perspectives, knowing that we've all been socialized, and this feels like so important, that there's not one way of being in the world. There's not one way of expressing. There's not one way of feeling. There's just not one. And for me, the richness of all these perspectives, as far as I'm concerned, is what we need to be able to move into the future together. Do no harm means, for me, that I'm going to do harm. I'm going to miss you. I'm not going to see you, but I'm willing to stay present and hear when somebody comes and tells me I've had impact on them, because that just happens. You can't see perfectly and you don't know everything. Do your part is something that I added in Israel. Someone suggested this, and it feels so meaningful to me because it's both about in the group or in the program that people are trusting that what they have to bring is really important and that there's something coming through them that only they can bring. But also do your part means going back out into the world and knowing that you have a part to do in the world. Okay. Next. So when we're working with multiple perspectives, it becomes such an important part of the container for allowing complexity, allowing differences. And so I'm going to tell you some of the elements that I give people in this training. Yeah. So first, it feels very important that each of us has a worldview. And for me, being in the non-expert model, really knowing more and more how I have been socialized to see the world allows me to be with others in a way that I can be open to what I might be seeing in front of me and not necessarily automatically evaluating it from my frame. So knowing that I have a frame, knowing I've been socialized. Language is really important in this program, but I think in every program. So language is power. And so one of the things I didn't say yesterday is if we were speaking English, if we said everybody has to speak English, there's going to be people in the room who know English better than other people, and that's an advantage for them. Also, when we're working in a situation where people feel one down and they've had to give up their mother tongue in order to navigate in society. So, for instance, the Palestinians, many of them know Hebrew, but most of the Israeli Jews don't know Arabic. So language becomes a place of power, and it feels really important that we name it. We do all of our work in 3 languages, and we have translation. And the other thing is that translation, you can't always translate concepts. Languages sometimes don't even have concepts. So you want to be inviting that information into the room. Learning about norms and values, that we've all learned values and we've all got norms, and they're just that. There are values and there are norms. They're not the values and the norms. And that feels really important. And teaching about individualism and collectivism, very different worldviews on a spectrum throughout the world. And individualism and collectivism have very different value priorities. So if you don't understand that, and if people aren't educated around that, a lot of judgments or assumptions come up around differences that are actually just people's values that are different. And so we're working a lot with understanding these deep-seated differences, both on a cognitive and a feeling level. We're trusting the wisdom in the room. So when working with differences, it's important that all of us, but especially that people holding the process, are really open to other perspectives so that all the wisdom that's present can be part of what leads us in a new direction. We work a lot with strong feelings because in order for people to stay in these really difficult conflicts, it's really important that they can tolerate their own strong feelings to be able to hold the feelings of others. And for those of you who know radical aliveness, not everybody here does, but chaos is part of the process. And being able to tolerate chaos, because that's a place where a lot of stuff comes out in the open that needs to be looked at, that would not come out in the open if we were more in control. Knowing that conflict is not rational, so working with the awareness and the feelings, and checking assumptions and where they come from. So what do words mean? What are people assuming about each other? Learning to check assumptions, and knowing about intention and impact, which for me is so important, because when we bring ourselves in a way that we feel is so good, or our heart is in it, and it hits somebody in a way that we weren't expecting, how do you stay and be willing to hear that you've had an impact without putting anything on the other person, like really being able to hear that? So next. So this is the last slide. I can't say enough how important chaos is, because when we allow some space for kind of a natural chaos to arise, so much comes out that we want to come out. Beliefs, prejudices, strong feelings, all of this will come out. And that's fantastic, because we want to be able to address and know about these things. It's so important that we're receiving everyone without shaming them, because everything that's coming out is part of being human. So both the people in the room are taught not to shame. I'm not shaming. I mean, sometimes people have strong reactions, and that may be part of the chaos, but ultimately people are coming back to looking at where things take them. The other part of this is that a lot of times when strong feelings arise, they'll spread in the room, so that people will often be feeling very strong feelings together. And many times what this leads to is places where people are really sharing deep experiences, even when they're on opposite sides of a conflict, that there's a deep pain or fear or similar stories that people have to share. And this is a place where connection happens, that we're helping people to release things they never shared with others, to be witnessed, to get their energy back, to not be afraid of all these feelings, and to be validated for our strength, that people have survived and they're not alone, and others have experienced what we have. So that is my PowerPoint. And we're going to show you a couple of videos. We showed different ones yesterday, and we're going to show some new ones today, so that people who were here yesterday get a different experience. So go ahead, Peter.
Okay.
These are participants in the program speaking.
And we're doing Hadar first, right?
Sure, do Hadar. Hadar is Jewish. And they're talking after the last module that we just did. So they've come fresh out of this module.
Peter, are you able to share? I just want to make sure I've been.
Yep. Now it's good. Okay.
שלום לכולם, אני נוחתת משבוע הכשרה, תוכנית הכשרה עם אן של יהודים ופלסטינים. היה מדהים. קודם כל, זה נס שהדבר הזה בכלל קרה. זה היה כרוך בזה שאנחנו היהודים נסענו לבג'אלה, ווייז כל הזמן מזכיר לנו שאסור לנו להיות שם, והיינו צריכים לכבות את ההתראות, בגלל שהפלסטינים לא יכלו לקבל אישורים, בגלל המצב. אז זה בכלל נס שהצלחנו להיפגש. אבל הנס האמיתי שקרה זה שממש פתחנו אחד בשני, ואמרנו את האמת שעל הלב שלנו, את האמת היפה, את האמת המכוערת, את האמת הכואבת, את האמת השונאת, את האמת האוהבת. ונשארנו ביחד, ויכולנו לראות אחד את השני מעבר לסיפורים. ומבחינתי זה הנס האמיתי. זה ממש מרגיש, ככה מרגיש שלום. אלו הן שיחות השלום. שיחות השלום זה שיחות שבהן אנחנו פותחים מספיק בצד השני בשביל להראות לו כמה כואב לנו, ואנחנו אומרים עליו את כל השיפוטים שיש לנו, ומגלים שזה רק סיפורים. ואני ממש, אני כבר בתוכנית הזאת 1.5 שנה, ואני יכולה להגיד שאני מרגישה לראשונה במודול הזה, שאנחנו ביחד. אני באמת אוהבת את כל מי ששם בתוכנית, כמו משפחה. זה האנשים שלי, ואני חושבת שזה דבר מופלא לתמוך בו בתקופה הזאת. זה ממש לתמוך בעשייה של שלום, ואני ממש מאמינה בדרך הזאת, ואנחנו צריכים את העזרה שלכם לתמוך בנו, כדי שהתוכנית הזאת תוכל להמשיך ולתת את ההדהוד. אני יודעת שאני לא אהיה אותו דבר. לחוות את הדבר הזה שבאמת, ששלום אמיתי הוא אפשרי. זה עניין רגשי, זה לא עניין לוגי, זה לא עניין שכלי. וזה פשוט, רומי, ג'לאל א-דין רומי, מדבר על זה שמעבר לטוב ולרע יש מרחב שבו אפשר להיפגש. ורדיקל אלייבנס זה המרחב הזה, ואנחנו נפגשנו. וכדי שהדבר הזה ימשיך לקרות ולהדהד, אנחנו צריכים את העזרה שלכם. תודה.
These videos were made actually as part of a fundraising campaign, so that's the part at the end. But I wanted to share them with you because people said so much about their experience. So we're going to do one more, and this is Samia. She's a Druze Palestinian who lives in Israel.
I wasn't sure what language I'm gonna talk. I grew up speaking Arabic and Hebrew to a Druze family, and this says a lot about my mixed identity. So most probably I'm gonna switch languages. אז הצטרפתי לקבוצה של אן וסלבי ודרור בדקה ה-90 עם חברה שלי, ופחות או יותר הבנתי לאן אני מגיעה, אבל כשהגעתי הבנתי שלא הבנתי. חשבתי שהקבוצה הזאת התחילה קצת לפני המלחמה ועכשיו היא תמשיך, ולאחר מכן הבנתי שהקבוצה הזאת עברה תהליך של 1.5 שנה ביחד בעצם. ואז זה היה הגיוני, כי כשהגעתי וראיתי את כל הכאוס שצף, כי זה היה המפגש הראשון של הקבוצה לאחר תקופה כל כך ארוכה אחרי המלחמה שלא נפגשו, הכל היה כל כך כאוס עמוק ומטורף, וחשבתי שאנשים כאילו חשבתי שהכל הכל מתפרק, כאילו אין. המלחמה הזאת הציפה מלא דברים אצל הקבוצה, והם לא יכולים יותר לראות אחד את השנייה ולשמוע אחד את השנייה, ופשוט הכל הולך להתפרק. וחשבתי שאנשים ביום למחרת הם לא יחזרו. ושהכל פשוט מתברק. ثاني يوم الناس رجعت وأخذ لي 3-4 أيام تاني לקראת סוף התהליך להבין מה היה כאן, להבין שהאנשים האלה עברו משהו ביחד שגרם להם להישאר. ומה שאני רגילה אליו זה שאנשים עוזבים, אנשים לא נשארים במצבים כאלה. כאילו לשמוע אנשים אומרים לך את האמת שלהם שהיא כל כך קשה להחזיק ולשמוע, שהדבר הכי טבעי שיקרה זה שאנשים יבחרו לא לחזור להיות באותו חדר עם אותם אנשים. אז أنا مش عارفة إيش اللي قدروا يعملوه سيلفيا وآن من قبل ودرار، بس قدروا يعملوا إشي كتير حقيقي اللي خلى الناس تضلها למרות כל הכאוס ולמרות כל הקושי ולמרות כל הצער וכל האבל. אנשים נשארו, ואז חיבור אמיתי היה יכול להיווצר. الناس عن جد قدرت تتواصل بطريقة اللي هي مش على السيرفيس بس ومش من برا ومش أنا بدي سلام لإلك I want peace for you but لا، عن جد الناس قدرت تتواصل مع البشاعة، مع ال raw feelings raw radical truth. هذا الاشي عيشني، عن جد عيشني لأكم من لحظة. كمان كان في كتير لحظات اللي حسيت فيها اني بحداد كتير 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 عميق وانه فيش امل، في بس وجع. بس اني اشوف انه اشي انا ما كنتش متعودة عليه كواحد اللي تركت مجموعة تعليم كنت فيها بعد الحرب، لانه حسيت انه فيش امكانية للقاء، فيش امكانية لتواصل، فيش امكانية لأي نوع من انه نتواصل عن جد. فاني اشوف انه هاي المجموعة مرقت اشي مع بعض اللي خلتها لمرات كل شيء انها تضل سوا. هذا الاشي خلاني افهم انه الاشي اللي عم تعمله آن fucking works وبدي كمان منه، وبدي اكتشف ايش كيف بينفع تخلي ناس يشوفوا الحقيقة بالضبط كيف ما هي وستيل يضلوا ان يختاروا يكونوا سوا ويختاروا انه يلتقوا ويختاروا انه يسمعوا ويصغوا ويتواصلوا. بدي انه اكمل اكون بهاي المجموعة واكمل اكتشف كيف هذا الاشي ممكن.
Thank you, Peter. So I just would really love for anybody who wants to share or ask questions, welcome. And I'd love to have a little dialogue with you around what you saw and how you connected with what people were saying, and just anything you want to share or ask, welcome. Yeah. Hi, it's so nice to see you.
Hi, Anne. Really nice to see you too.
Yeah.
If I'm the only one that needs this, I'm cool if you decline, but I would love just a little context. I know you've been working over there for some time. I just don't know how it's morphed. I'm curious how many people and how it's been coming together and what the difference is between pre-war and post-war.
Huge difference. So it was already great. I loved it. we started in January of 2023. And I was, teaching them, and they were coming, a group of Jews and Palestinians coming together. And so we had 2 modules, and the third module was supposed to be in October. I went there, and then the attack of October 7th happened, and then the war happened. And it gave us an opportunity, actually, to really ask people, are you committed? Because we didn't know if people would come back. We didn't know. I mean, everything after October 7th, I think I gave maybe 9 workshops or 9 meetings. Just the whole country was in chaos. I met with Palestinians. I met with Israeli Jews, did all these meetings, but I couldn't meet with my group. And so we really asked people, are you committed? Everybody said yes. They wanted to keep going, except for one person who I'm still in contact with, but it wasn't right for her to continue. And it gave us an opportunity actually to add more Palestinians, because the program had been organized before I joined it. And we were uneven. There were 7 Palestinians and 11 Jews. And so we've added 4 more Palestinians. And that was Samia, who was just talking, like, after that first day, she was saying, what is this, And what happened after the war that for me is so amazing, I did one module in January where we couldn't meet, and we met separately. So I met with the Jews in Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank, and we did work just with their groups. And then in May, we organized for them to come together, which was very difficult because, I can't remember if people in these videos said they were afraid. The Jews had to come to the West Bank, which really scared them because the Palestinians can't leave the West Bank. And the Jews couldn't stay in the West Bank. They had to go back and forth between Jerusalem and Talitha Kumi. So it was a kind of a miracle that we got together and that everybody came except for one woman who was too afraid, but she's coming to the next one. I told everybody, you don't have to come if you're too afraid. And everybody came. It was amazing. And I think what was so amazing, I think for one thing, like what Samia said, that most groups, if they get to this level of truth, fall apart. And the fact that we've been meeting for 1.5 years, the reason this program is long is because it takes so much skill building for people to be able to meet each other in this way. It's not easy. And so what happened was, I had different conversations with different people who were saying, oh, I'm so afraid to meet. But I really encouraged people to bring things. I said, what have you got to lose at this point? Mm-hmm. You're in a terrible war and so much is happening. And so tell the truth, say the things that you haven't had the courage to say before. And people did. And so it was, I think, a really incredible meeting because everybody brought things that they had been sitting on. I think the war really put people in a position where they just weren't going to hold back what was true for them anymore. And it was a very beautiful meeting. It was beautiful. It was difficult. People cried, people screamed. But like what Hadar said is that I think people were able to see each other more clearly, were quite shocked that they could say such difficult things to each other. And actually that it was leading them to a common ground. And I think that all of them feel, and I keep saying this to them, you're doing something that is important. You're meeting in this way and you're looking for a solution together. And if anybody knew the solution to this problem, it would already have happened. And they feel like they're doing something important. I mean, they feel proud of themselves. They feel really inspired, I think, by themselves about what they're doing. So it was wonderful.
And what kind of commitment are?
It's a 3-year commitment.
Okay, so we've got another year and a half.
Actually, we have more like 2 years because we got so interrupted. And it's not just a commitment in terms of showing up at the modules. They have homework, they have reading, they have 2 meetings in between where they meet in person with Sylvia and Dror, who are my co-leaders. They all have individual meetings with me in between modules, and they have to do their homework and they have to do the reading. I mean, it's a commitment. And I was really clear when I was interviewing people that it's a real commitment and people do it.
And how do they get identified, Anne? And then I will not ask any more questions because I'm sure there are others.
What do you mean? How do they get identified?
Like, how do people come? How do they find you and how do they come to the program?
Originally, 2 people organized this group for me. And I interviewed a lot of people and then accepted the people that, really told them what it was going to be like and accepted the people that it felt like a really good match. And then these last people, the 4 Palestinians that just joined because they heard so much about it. They heard that it was amazing. They heard that it was different. And so we were able to get 4 more Palestinians, which people didn't believe we were going to be able to do, but they wanted to be there, and they're amazing additions to the group.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lina. Yeah, Carol.
So what is the hope that, as these people progress through the program, do they become ambassador? Like what's the goal?
Oh, Eduardo, sorry, I didn't see your hand was raised, but I will call on you after this. The goal for me is that there will be 22 leaders who are capable of holding this level of complexity in a conflict area. That's the goal. The goal is that they will all be able to hold really difficult conflict either in the work they're doing. Some of them work in schools, some of them have organizations, some of them want to do group work, some of they're taking it back to their communities. So that's the goal, is to really give people the tools and the skills to be able to go back out into the world and even in their families and communities, bring themselves in ways that lead to more connection and less polarization.
Mm-hmm.
Eduardo.
Hola.
Hola.
Hello, everyone. I'm very moved and very interesting on what's happening in this group. In the PowerPoint, I got very attracted to the piece you named about feelings are not enough, so information to be given. Of course, there is political perceptions that need to be addressed, like historically, like how the Israeli state was founded, and also like dealing with words like occupation and genocide and like process that are going on, like that are happening right in that territory. Like how you like my question is like what kind of information, like really, because
Yeah. No, it's a great question, Eduardo, because people have really different narratives. People have different beliefs. And what is important is, how do you give people concepts that allow them to hold these differences in skillful ways? So, for instance, one thing that we work with is power and understanding power dynamics, understanding norms and values, understanding right now, part of their homework is, and I couldn't do this before now, like I couldn't do it, but they're getting together in groups and sharing their narrative on the conflict, because it's very different and it's complex and people have histories and there's so much that goes into it. So for me, it's not about a specific political view. It's especially not about that, because everyone needs to be welcome with what they know and how they see things. And so what's important is these kind of larger concepts around socialization, worldview, power, values, value priorities, value judgments, all these things that if people understand them, checking assumptions, give them skills to navigate these really different perspectives in ways that lead to something meaningful. Does that make sense?
And like with with power dynamic, there was like I remember in the when we were in fourth year, there was a concept of deficit.
The reactive deficit dynamic.
Yeah, like have you seen that in the group?
Yeah.
How you deal with how you deal with this facilitator?
For instance, people don't know what you're talking about, but one of the things that's been really important to me in Radical Aliveness is, how do you hold a space where there's not like a right, correct view? What's the correct view? You just want people to have enough information that they can tell the others what's true for them, and by being together can open their eyes and change. And that is happening. Let me tell you, that happens. That happens. So for me, what's important is, how do you create the safety in a room so that people can bring what is true in ways that, like I said before, that allow something meaningful to happen. What I see, for instance, I was just speaking with a Palestinian woman this morning who lived in Israel, and really hates her religion, hates being Arabic. And so I was saying to her, like, I left her with, can you find anything that is good? And she goes, that is such a good question. Because I think sometimes when it's like being queer, if there's a lot of messages, if you're in a society or that says you're less than, how do you not internalize that in some way? So yeah, I see it in that way. Yeah, Lenore.
And we have a lot of graduates here from the 4-year program, and maybe some who even did just the 2-year program. But I'm curious if you've done anything differently with this group, given that it's 3 years, given, it's a different. So I'm just curious how maybe your approach has shifted
Oh, I think I'm doing something so different. So in the time that I was in the school, radical aliveness kept evolving, but radical aliveness was a big ship. And I couldn't possibly help people, kind of catch up to where I kept getting new information. So the thing that's been kind of liberating, I just say, the thing that's been really liberating about this is that I've been able to actually bring the training exactly as I have wanted to. And that is different from what was happening, and not completely, but it's there are things that I could just never bring because the school involved so many teachers and was just impossible. So I feel like, yes, I'm doing things very differently in ways that make me so happy. Thanks for asking. Yeah, Erica.
And this might be around what you referenced earlier, where you said these videos were done as a fundraising campaign, which I'm curious about. But I'm wondering if after this, I think you said you have another 1.5 or 2 years with this group, is the hope, particularly with the fundraising campaign, and is there bandwidth to have multiple groups going on with Israelis and Palestinians beyond these 22 people?
But not right now. Like we need to complete this. I mean, I always do workshops when I'm there, always. And I might be getting introduced to another group that I would do workshops with, but not a full training. It's not possible yet. And my hope is that when this training is over, all these people will go out and they're already doing it, but we'll bring it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Nina, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, I did. I know it's a huge question and you don't have to answer it, of course, but I would love to hear some of the different things you're doing.
I think that I am starting with much more foundational information. So for instance, all the things I named about giving people experiences and concepts around power, systemic power, personal power, giving people information about values. And there's a way that I have much more space to give people some information that I feel is really necessary for people to be able to meet others in ways like I'm really working with people constantly knowing who they are, knowing what their worldview is, knowing what their values are, using what's happening to keep coming back and knowing themselves better. Because my goal is, how do we meet other people in ways that aren't imposing our worldview or what we think feelings look like or what bodies are like or, what healing means or all those things. It's like, how do you meet people from a place that says, I'm here with you. You're the authority on yourself. We're doing something together. I'm not the one with the answers. You've already lived a whole life. You've survived in this environment that I have never been even close to. I haven't lived that kind of life. So these people have all sorts of things that they have experienced and that they know that I haven't lived. So I want people to be able to meet each other from that place of inquiry rather than I have the answers for you. And I think that requires some deep getting comfortable with not knowing. And for me and for the people that I've worked with, I think at least people in the United States, and people have grown up feeling like they have to be experts and they're supposed to have the answers and they're supposed to know and they have to master things. And so helping people undo all of that and be very, very present with how much we don't know. And I think that creates a space for really magic to happen. A real collaboration, right, between us, not me leading the way, but us collaborating and me expanding with what I'm learning.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. And a quick personal question would be: is there people of that program in Esalen I met in the program 11 years ago? Remember?
I think only Sylvia. Was Sylvia there? No.
Yeah, no, Sylvia was not there.
I don't think you know anybody. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Lorraine.
Hi.
I don't know. The last question, I think, because we'll go from here to Lenore. But yeah.
Hopefully I can ask the question in the way that I want it to come across.
Okay. You asked it yesterday and you're re-asking it. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't ask it properly yesterday. It was around when you're working in Israel and Palestine with an individualistic culture and a collectivist culture, and therefore they hold different values as priority. How do you work with that? And then I guess with that aim of trying to create change in the larger picture.
Well, if you just let go of the idea of like the individualist and collectivist and stay with the fact that what we're teaching people or what people are getting is an understanding of how complex human beings are and being open to finding out who I am and then finding out who you are. So it's even, I think, for instance, in the group, there's a lot of complexity and different perspectives within the group. So the Jews have a lot of complexity and different perspectives. And it's also true that the Palestinians have big differences, so being like, if we just focus in on individualism and collectivism, that people's priority, for instance, in the way they present themselves or what they're bringing may be different. And once we know that those differences exist, and this goes for everything and everyone, we stop evaluating others based on our own worldview. So if somebody's doing something that isn't the way you do it, that there's curiosity there about what it means to the person doing it rather than evaluating it from your perspective. Oh, that person's holding back, or that person's not speaking up, or that person, whatever all those things are that we do to other people that are based on our perceptual filter and are missing so much of what may be true for other people.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, I have so much to say.
Look, I'm going to jump in now because we want to just be mindful of everyone's time. Thank you all for joining us. And obviously there's so much power in what this program represents for, where Radical Aliveness is going. It's been running on a shoestring. And in order to fund the work, they are looking for about $200,000 for the remaining 2 years. So in the scheme of things, not a lot of money, and in the scheme of things, a lot. So we're opening it up to the community for ideas about how Anne and the team can get support for the work that they're doing. So if there are any funding sources that you might know of, grant writers, organizations to affiliate with, and we'll be running a GoFundMe campaign. So that will be at an individual level where people can make contributions. I had an organization I was involved with that had something called giving circles, where individuals were put in smaller groups and maybe each of them gave $1,000 or $2,000. And that was a way for them to come together outside of the training program to connect around the work, but also support the organization. So the Radical Aliveness Institute is a nonprofit. So that's just another idea. We've gotten some very good suggestions so far, and we're really looking for any connections that you have, any ideas, or other things that you'd like to share. We can open it up to the group here. You can email Anne directly or me. I can put my email in the link. But we're just looking to sort of gather ideas and see what suggestions you all might have to help us.
I think yes, yeah, Adam.
Quick question: if we wanted to make a donation, Radical Aliveness Institute, could you earmark it specifically for this program?
Yeah, absolutely. It would just be a donation that has Israel Palestine in the memo, and the money will all go. And you can do that on the website.
Okay.
I just want to follow up to his question. If in the vein of what Lenore you were talking about in terms of giving circles or connections to the community that might be able to do bigger chunks, do you by any chance have, like you said, you have these videos were being used as a fundraising video. I don't know if you have put together a video for people just outside of the RA community to explain this work, so that we could get it out there to people that are not within the RA community.
Yeah, we have one document that's for really big funders that, has information, like it's a whole write-up, and I can share that with you. And then we're going to have a GoFundMe that has a video, and we'll talk about the program. And then, and then we're going to do a campaign. But if you're talking about, are you talking about big donors, or you're talking about anyone?
I'm talking about people outside of the community where they might be able to give 50 or 100 grand, but they are not RA people. They're people that, one of the reasons I did the podcast was to explain what this is. So I'm wondering if there's anything that we can take.
I have for people who know people that might have larger amounts of money to give. Let me know, and I'll send you our write-up where people can read about it, and if they're interested and want to know more, they can reach out to me.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, Tom.
Tom, would you take yourself off mute? We can't hear you.
You're muted.
Can't you just intuit what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying.
So Lenore said Radical Aliveness Institute is a nonprofit. So that's to say it's a C3 of these foundations you speak of could donate to it. Correct?
Say it again.
So Radical Aliveness Institute is a C3.
It's a 501c3.
Any donation $50 and up, you get a tax deductible.
Well, no, it's just, you spoke of foundations, and most foundations are limited to that.
Yeah.
So just checking to confirm. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's almost time for us to stop, and maybe maybe just to leave a minute here if anybody has anything else that they want to say or share before we stop.
Yes, beside the bigger donations that I don't know about, I was thinking I don't remember the name in English, that thing that we did when we were in LA where people donate work. Like I did some astrology things and someone else did tarot or something. Now with the Zoom, it's so much easier that maybe some of us can donate things like that. Like let's say 10 sessions of astrology and you charge them, that would be like the donation, something like that.
Great idea. Yeah.
The online auction is a wonderful idea, Nina. We were also considering, in previous years, we had run workshops, we ran some in New York, and those were like fundraisers. So all of the donations, and facilitated the group, and all of those donations went to, the Radical Aliveness. So perhaps if you envision that you had a community of folks that would be in a position to be interested in this work, then then maybe Anne would be open to traveling, depending on what that would be like, or even doing something online. So that's just another idea. And I'm going to put my name in the chat just in case anyone wants to contact me.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming and being interested. And when I was in Israel and I was writing my emails and so many people were writing me back, I just want to say I felt so supported, and really it meant a lot to me. Luis.
Hey, quick question. Yes, just quick question.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things happening in the world, not only that war, but there's a lot, and most of conflicts are really polarized, right? So
Yeah.
from your experience, what is it that you feel that is required from us facilitators in order to deal with those huge systemic issues? I mean, you just shared a lot in the, I don't know, in the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Like something that you can share that is important for us facilitators that or that our work is based on systemic issues? What is it?
Luis, for me, I'll tell you the thing that has been most helpful for me, and that has been knowing my own socialization deeply and understanding the way that socialization works, because when you understand how socialization works, it becomes so much easier to understand how human beings are the way they are. And then that creates a space where I think there's an opportunity for things to come out in the open that allow people to make changes. And for me, knowing like my own story really helped me, because whatever comes up in the field, there's some place really deep in me that I can land. There's some place where mostly I don't get shaken. Mostly I understand that anything and everything that people are bringing is part of the human experience and needs to come out in order for it to be changed. So that's what's been important for me. Does that help? Yeah, I lost.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. And just if there's anything people need to say before we stop.
I want to say something, because I love your question at the beginning about when we feel as a leader threatened. And something came for me, like, what is threatened? When you feel threatened, is it physical? Is it like,
yeah.
And then I was thinking about these kind of program, or they are threatened all the time by natural things that's happening, or war, and so I just want to say thank you so much to you and all your people, your co-leader, to be inspiring so much people. Thank you so much.
Oh, Jose, I'm so glad you said that, because I want to say one last thing that feels really important. And I said this yesterday. Thank you. And I don't think that anybody in this program is an unusual human being. So anyone, I feel like most, 90% of human beings are capable of this, given the support and the space, and hungry for it. Hungry. So I just want to name that. I don't want to make these people special. I think they're amazing. They have so much courage. I love them so much. And I think most human beings are so capable of this.
And I think one thing that is really important is the time to build something like this. It takes time. The faith,
yes,
and the commitment.
Yeah, you don't do it in a workshop. You don't do it in a weekend. I mean, in some of these testimonials, I can't speak, testimonials, people were saying, yeah, we've been meeting for 1.5 years, and finally we felt safe enough to say this. And then people are saying those things a lot. Well, 1.5 years, we had to build our skills to be able to meet in this way. So yeah, it's a time-consuming project, and it's not, it takes time and deep commitment. And it's why I don't feel when people say you need to scale this, this is not about scale. Like, this is about people really making a deep commitment to doing this journey. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you all for coming. It was great to see you, and reach out to me if you have any questions or you have more information for me. And I really thank you. It was so great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, Joseph.
Hi, darling.
So I put everything that people suggested in that little table, and I do think Nina's idea is a good one about, whether it's an online auction or those.
It's fine with me if somebody else organizes it. I don't want to do it. It's like, so,
it's a lot.
yeah, it's so like, you make like a couple hundred. I'm so used to doing those. I'm like, no.
So question for you. Have you had other people review the materials for the funding? Do you feel really good about that?
I'll show you our GoFundMe when we get it up, but our one for the big donations, a lot of people looked at, like including people who give a lot of money.
Okay, so you've gotten that input. All right.
That one, we're actually asking for $400,000.
All right. Do you, I mean, I don't have that experience, but if you do want another set of eyes on it, I'm happy to take a look. The only thing that was coming up for me was, obviously the presentation that you shared here had a lot of information. So sometimes dealing with funders, things need to be more like top level and everything. But I'm not a grant writer, so I don't have that experience. But if you feel good about it, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to turn off the
record.
But it's okay because Peter will cut it up.